And it is Friday, and as we saw there, we even had a countdown. And believe it or not, we were actually on time today. Welcome, everyone. It's Friday. It's 1 minute past 4, and it is, of course, time to gather together the band, the posse, the fam, and celebrate spirituality, come together and discuss all the things that matter to us the most, as it's time for the two Revs, and I welcome, of course, Reverend Tony. How the devil are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. Yes, I'm finally starting to shake off that cold that's been lingering for a couple of weeks. Yeah, fine. Really busy. Had a really interesting day today. We went to an AGM it's a charity that organises the charitable sector in Rotherham.
Wonderful.
Yes, and it was really interesting, really interesting. I would like their bank balance, let's just say.
Yes, I can well imagine the things you could do and help people with a bank balance like that, ain't?
Yeah, really nice, really nice. How about you, sir? How are you doing?
Busy. The Patreon continues to flourish and thrive. I did an online reading yesterday to someone in New Zealand. It was 9 a.m. for me and 10 o'clock at night for her. Church last night, although I messed up a wire. Your volume. Kai says your volume's a little muted. Maybe it's just me being a bit loud.
I don't know.
I can hear you fairly well, to be fair, but
I can't see anything in the settings that would be an issue. But if it's quiet for everybody, I'll try and resolve it.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest with you. It might just be the sound balance of my noise versus your temperance. For anyone who's on the Patreon, they'll know what I meant. Today's card of the day was temperance, and yeah, I think Nick loud, Tony quieter. Let me adjust my settings a little bit, and that might mean that you can turn your volume up without going deaf. There we go. Am I a little quieter now?
Yes.
I'm a little bit more balanced there, you see. So you can turn your volume up now without bursting your eardrums. But yeah, so I've been doing my cards on the Patreon and doing some other bits and pieces for them. Obviously, I broke a wire last night, so the church wasn't on. I apologise. But the fact that you can see me now means everything's back up and running and all fixed. And just I had a bit of a rest today. Had one of my heads coming, so had a bit of a snoopy snooze, and all's well again with the world. So we are back. I am back, and everything is good. I've got to say though, it's going to be busy this weekend. I'm hosting a paranormal event from Canada for SPTV tomorrow night,
Wow.
which is going to be my first ever paranormal event. Yeah, believe it or not, I've never done that. And then Sunday I'm in Huntington, and Tuesday I'm in Skegness in Burley Marsh. So,
very
getting
nice.
about like some old tart, tarting myself around. But
you're not going to be that far from us.
I know Burley Marsh isn't that far.
No.
And of course, I don't know yet. But I will post when I know. I don't know yet, Mum. I really. I'm sure she means the. I'm sure she means the paranormal night, because I'm just going to be picking her up and taking her with me when I go to. And Kai's going to be seeing us in Burley. Yeah, Burley Marsh. So we'll see you there. Lovely stuff. And that is what I just love about this way of life and this way of working, because even though there are people that I wouldn't normally see or speak to on a weekly or daily basis, it's like yesterday morning, I started my day talking and spending my time talking to someone who was literally the opposite side of the planet, and ended the day with all of my friends and family in Littleport, and not being able to speak to anyone else because I broke a wire. You know, what else kind of life can you get like that without feeling a little bit blessed?
I have no idea. It's such, yeah, it's such a blessing. It really is.
Definitely.
Like today, just being at that AGM, and they had a room at the side with some stalls and information booths and things that you could just have a mooch around. And we went and had a look around, and we were talking to all sorts of people from all sorts of third sector organizations. And everybody was saying the same thing. It's about helping people, encouraging people, growing, allowing people to grow and develop in the way they need to, which is amazing. Absolutely amazing, you know? Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
And speaking of people who grow and develop in their own volition and being amazing, shall we say hello to everybody at
Let's
home?
go all the way back to the top.
We certainly have. Starting off with this lovely young lady, the one that I saved for the intro. Hello, Kaza, with a whoop whoop. I did give you countdown over the title sequence, although I wouldn't say that my countdown that you gave us was as in time as yours. But hi, darling, welcome. Because we missed you last week, you know, we did, and there's a few people we missed last week. I can see in the list. So, but we'll get to that. Of course, there was that gentleman there too. We must mention him.
Yeah, and Chrissy. Hi, Chrissy.
We'll get to your comments about me in a minute. Hi, Mum.
And Lisa. Hello, Lisa Snowflake.
And cousin Ruth. Hi, Ruth. It's a family affair for sure today.
Yeah, and then Kai. Hi, Kai.
And the lovely Sherry-Ann Bodman Barnes, all the way from En Français.
En Français. I love it. And Dawny, hello.
Hey. And there we go. Christine Davis, good afternoon to you.
Then is it Daniela, hello.
Yes.
How are you, my dear?
Good to see you. And Liz, hello, darling. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And you, Eunice, hello to you and Tony.
Fabulous. And AD, soon to be Reverend AD. We shall see you on Thursday, of course, for the ordination.
Wonderful. And Valerie, hello, Valerie.
Hi, Aunt Val.
Hi, Anne. How are you doing?
Hello, Dan. And Mario Jose Dalmedo. I hope I got that right. Good to see you. Coming on in there. And I've just got to say, a big well done to Lisa. A big well done to Eunice. You've fixed your imagery problem. We can see your face and your name. So
fabulous.
Excellent stuff. And welcome to Eric, because I know we haven't said hello to everybody because not everybody said their name and said hello. But if you are on and you are here, you are most welcome. And it is good to see you all joining in. And you know what? I say this every week, but I think it's really important. Saying hello to each other. I think that really is so brilliant that the community is the community and is an actual community rather than, you know, two heads talking all night. You know, I mean, I know we joke and have a muck about and take the mick out of ourselves and each other. And, you know, but like, for instance, my running commentary from the lovely Chrissy Wheatley, you know, there'd be some people that would be really, you know, antsy about stuff like that. And I think, you know, more fool them, because it's part of being a group of people coming together. And I absolutely love it. Because for me, what it says is it makes me feel as though I am approachable and not this stuffy what's it wearing a bit of fairy liquid bottle round my throat. you know, and the fact that she's comfortable. What was it she said? I did say I'd come back to it just as a start off. We can hear you, Tony. You know, Nick is always louder than everyone else. And, you know, and Nick loud, Tony quieter. You know, I love that because it makes me feel part of a family rather than people coming to listen. You know, I don't know what you think,
Absolutely.
but I really,
No.
really do.
Yeah, I've done online services and things where you have to say to people sometimes, if you're trying to give readings, could you just slow the comments down a little bit because I can't keep up. But I have had people who've chaired these services saying, "Oh, it's really annoying when people are chatting in the," and I thought, no, it's not. It's wonderful because when we come to Littleport, we have that half hour before where we have a cup of coffee and a chat and a stand around, and then the time afterwards, like you say, you can be there till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night sometimes. But that's when you build the community. Doing online stuff, you don't get that time, so you've got to have that chat in the comments.
Absolutely.
And it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Absolutely. It's really, really good to see the personality of individuals coming out. You know, those that are prepared to, you know, put, yeah, as Mum pointed out, it's not always 10:30. Sometimes it's midnight. We didn't have the computer put away last night, so we got away half an hour early. I think it was about 11. But yeah, it's that ability, a place where people feel they can be themselves, an opportunity sometimes that people don't always get. Amen to this, sister. I love being loud and standing out from the crowd, Nick. It just means we are persons that keep the entertained. Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. It is keep them entertained. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Lisa says the church family are the best. No judgment, no labels. Just bring together healing, help, improving spirit is eternal. Love it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is what being a group of people is all about. And I'm never going to shy away from being me. Because I think if I do that, that's the minute when we start failing.
Yes, that is when you set yourself up to fail. When you're trying to be what other people want or need you to be. You just can't do that. And I've always said that our job is to help people to become the best version of themselves they can be.
Yes.
And to hold the hand while they make that journey. And nobody, to go back to Lisa's point, nobody has the right to judge anybody else. Whose standards are you judging them against? You know, it's just wrong.
Absolutely. And you know, it is one of those really, really important things. And hello to John and Sue, welcome along. And yeah, with no malice, but the difference is you can always tell when someone's having a bit of banter and someone's being a bit malicious. You know, sometimes it can be a bit difficult in text form, and I think that's where people tend to struggle. But nonetheless, when you get used to people's sense of humor and have a laugh and a joke, I think it's, you know, life is so bloody boring and dull and miserable sometimes. You've got to bring yourself up with a bit of camaraderie, a bit of a giggle, a bit of a laugh, a bit of a muck about. And it doesn't matter who you are or what you do, you have got to let loose and be yourself. So I have no intention of, and I know this one never will either.
Oh no, I wouldn't have Kazza any other way. I wouldn't have any of you in the comments there any other way. You're all just perfect as you are. And Jackie, yeah, you have to be you. There's nobody else like you in the world, so never will be again.
I've got to say, I love that phrase. I have to be me, everyone else is taken. That is spot on. Love it. You're absolutely right. Life is too short without laughter, Chrissy. Absolutely, yes.
Oh,
and good afternoon to Julie. Hello, sweet pea. How are you? So yeah, it is. It's always interesting. Look, Liz, I'll be honest with you. We've had this conversation before, and I will keep having it with you. If you find somebody is perfect, please point them out. I'll wait.
Yeah.
You're not going to find them. You're not going to find them.
Do you not think with the digital age we live in at the minute, it's easy to perceive other people's lives as being perfect?
Yes.
Because they only post out the good things, the nice things. And nobody's life is 100% perfect. Nobody's life. And if they say it is, then they're fibbing, because everybody's life has its ups and its downs and its pitfalls. Like, I would guarantee if you go on Instagram, Facebook, X, whatever app you want to pick up, and look at photographs of people, none of them are original photographs. They've all been touched and tweaked and changed and manipulated to look a certain way. And it's not healthy. It's not healthy to judge yourself to other people's standards. And to go back to tired of being you can't be anybody else, Liz. You've got to be you. And you've got to accept yourself, flaws and all. Otherwise, and I'm talking from experience here, because it's taken me a long time to be able to say, you know what, I quite like myself. I think I'm doing okay. Because nobody was as harsh a critic as I was for myself. It was, I didn't like my weight. I didn't like my height. I didn't like my teeth, my nose, my eyes. I didn't like anything. And yeah, you just got to be you and accept yourself, warts and all, and love you as you are, because you can't do anything other than be you and be the best version of you can possibly be.
Absolutely.
Here ended the lesson.
Amen to that, brother. And you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I'm with everyone. I totally agree. Including only Mary Poppins is practically perfect in every way.
But Mary Poppins is only practically perfect.
Yes, not totally perfect.
No.
So even she admits she's got flaws and faults. I mean, let's be honest with you. Those boots needed a polish before she took off at the end.
Oh, yes.
Hi, Neil. Good to see you. And we've spoken, but we haven't said hello to Ant. So we'll say hello to Ant as well. You know what, Chrissy? Some people don't get your sarcastic sense of humour. So I've just seen the next comment.
Yeah. We won't go there.
My dad had a very dry sense of humour, a very sarcastic sense of humour. So I'm used to it. I get it. I grew up on a dry, dark sense of humour, and it set me up for life. Really, is in all honesty. Hello to Claire Jagged. Good to see you. Welcome. And it's really, really important that we are who we are. That which we, as Tennyson even wrote a whole poem about it. That which we are, we are. And I'm gonna put it up because I'm past caring. There you go. Pink is perfect. But then there was that conditional phrase, to me.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. I think it's really, really important when we look at social media. It really does. I mean, even little things like today, you've got to sit here and think, does Nick's room look tidy? Yes, because he's made sure that he's gone round and tidied all the bits that you can see. If I were to grab my camera and take a look behind the lens, it's not exactly that tidy. I'm a bit of a messy pup. Look, I haven't even made the bed, and I haven't even taken the bottles out for a week. So nothing's perfect. Nobody's perfect. And I'll let you look behind the lens whenever you need to and whenever you want to, because no one is. And you will never find that perfect person. And I've been really, really lazy. I haven't done my recycling. I've just been sitting here working all week behind the computer, and I just haven't tidied up after myself. But I've let you see that. Most people won't. And yes, I will put, yes, it is 8 bottles and it's over a week. It is over a week. I've been a really, really good boy. You were really quick to count that.
Yeah.
Really, really quick. But yeah, I've been really, really good. I've been cutting back on the caffeine. I've been cutting back on the Pepsi. So that's a whole, there's a time that had been 2 days. That would have been 2 days. And it just shows I couldn't be bothered to tidy up. I couldn't care less. I'm sitting here and, nobody can see it. But this is the thing with social media. You're right. You've got those filters. My phone is set to auto filter, and I haven't figured out how to turn it off yet. So it always knocks at least half a dozen years off me. And, it's just not me. I don't care, there is no filter on this, so you can see me warts and all. So everyone knows when it's a filtered photo. But the amount of people that go around and, we must manage this, we must manage that, we must manage this, we must manage that. When you get to the point of doing that, you are not showing you.
No.
And the more you go through that process, the more you should be thinking, why? And I think unless we challenge the whys, we never get to the wherefores. And so I'm totally with you. We do see the world through other people's rose-tinted spectacles a lot of the time. And until we actually take those rose-tinted spectacles off, we are not going to see ourselves and each other for what we really are, which is occasionally fragile, sometimes broken, quite often struggling. But you know what? We still get up in the morning and do what we do. And that is what matters.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. It's so true. And I think by applying filters, whether it be on photographs of yourself or how you present to the world, you're doing the world a disservice because they aren't seeing the true you. And I think that's a little sad, because I think people need to see the genuine person inside. Yeah. I mean, obviously there are times when you have to apply a filter to some extent. Just to pick up on Tim's, if you're on a rostrum, I wouldn't have conversations like I do with Nick before we come on here.
No.
At all. And about the topics we were talking about just before we came on air. But that's who I am. I am an amalgamation of things. And yeah, it's different. It's different. And I think you have to at times allow yourself to be that little bit vulnerable and show people the real you inside. And just to, should we go back to Tim, because we skipped past it.
Yeah.
What do you think, Nick?
I think that unless you do a lot of self-awareness and work on yourself, you are not going to be able to be an effective medium. And when I say that, there is some conditional phrases that I put there. You will be able to communicate with the world of spirit. You will be able to receive that love and that support. You'll be able to see what they've got to say, but you won't hear it and you won't act on it unless you work on your self-awareness and yourself first. And you certainly will struggle to pass on concepts, feelings, thoughts, and guidance if you do not have at the very least an understanding of them. For example, if you have never experienced pain, how would you know what pain is? If you have never experienced love, how would you know what love is? You've got to experience and be aware of what those experiences are. At the very least, be aware of them before you can actually understand what it is that's being shown to you, because so much is through thought, form, concept, and feeling. You wouldn't be able to be an effective communicator of that information unless you have done some self-awareness work and worked on yourself. And also, unless you are self-aware, you will always end up being biased with the information that you are putting through. And I've seen it so many times. You know, if you've got someone coming through who was a bit of a what's it and not exactly a nice person in their life, but are trying to improve themselves in the spirit world and in some way try and put right the wrongs that they've made. Unless you have done that for yourself, you wouldn't recognize it and you would pass them on as a very negative person. And the point is that would be a disservice to the spirit person you're communicating for. It would also be a disservice to the communicated person who's sitting there hoping beyond hope that they've learnt their lesson. And so if you are not aware of faults and failures and that desire to improve oneself, you're never going to recognize it. And because like attracts like in this way of life, we attract those helpers and friends in the world of spirit who are like us. And if we are someone who is totally against self-awareness and working on yourself, you are never going to grow as an individual. And we have to grow in order to be effective mediums. I'm always reminded the very first thing that I was taught when I sat in circle is always go back to the beginning and remember who you were when you started. And there you will see the change in yourself to help improve yourself and realize that you have come further than you actually give yourself credit for as an individual. But also you will remember who you were then, so that you can recognize those frustrations and difficulties with people that you are trying to support and help. Look, I'm not saying that if you don't ever work on yourself, you'll never see or hear or feel spirit. You will, but I just don't think that you will be as effective for yourself and effective for other people unless you've done that. And I think we walk a very fine line in this way of life where we're always talking about. I didn't realize I was that boring. He's got to turn his light on. I'm very much aware that in this way of life, we can see you now, dear. You were starting to look a little bit like the computer off of Red Dwarf Holly. You know, this head floating in the background. In this way of life, we use the word ego bandy around a lot of bad. And whilst an extreme ego is a negative thing, what I will remind people is that ego literally means an awareness of self. Once again, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. And I think unless we acknowledge that, we are not going to go anywhere or grow anywhere. So I think it's important to recognize that need for growth and recognize that need for development within ourselves before we can anyway help anyone else do the same. Your thoughts, Tony?
Exactly what you said. I think to do the best job you can for spirit, you need to acknowledge your own issues and your own self-awareness. I think the other thing that goes hand in hand with self-awareness is something called emotional intelligence, because you have to be aware of what triggers your emotions in certain ways. And when I worked for the civil service, we did a course it was basically, if you hold a certain view about certain groups in the population, how can you devise policies and interventions to help those people develop and to grow. So that was a really interesting concept, and I think that works as mediums as well, because if somebody presents to you from the world of spirit in a certain way that you have a particular view on, good or bad, you might interpret that information slightly differently depending on your view.
Yeah.
So I think it all comes in one thing of, if you know yourself and if you know what triggers you and how you react emotionally to different things, you can work on putting that to one side and just delivering the information as it is intended to the recipient, without any positive or negative twist on from yourself. Like you said, I think it's very important to say that it's something that comes as you develop and as you grow. So nobody's expecting day one of sitting in circle you're going to be perfect. Nobody is. But you have to you will be able to reach spirit, to contact spirit, to pass on messages. But like everything, with that experience and with that growth, it will develop and it will become a fuller picture that you're able to deliver to people, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And
I totally agree.
Just to pick up, AD, you can't just ask Google or any other search engine to make me, hey thingy, make me self-aware, or the thing that sits on the desk that keeps interrupting me every now and again. That's spirit like to play with.
And if you mention its name, like for instance, if you're in circle and the circle leader suddenly screams out, hey, that individual, play digger digger, and then everyone's screaming out, that individual's stop. It'd be really cruel of someone to do something like that in circle, wouldn't it?
It would, and I can't imagine anybody who would do that.
It was fun. We did have a bit of a giggle on Monday's circle, where I was just I was a bit of a clown, and Kazza made the mistake of challenging me. You never challenged me. She knows that now. Speaking of appearances and other deceits, a practical question from Kaz there. Can I ask a clothing question? What is the difference when you wear your purple shirts to black shirts? Honestly, in a clue. It's really, really simple. It depends on which religion you are. We just interchange depending on how we feel like it. There is a loose kind of color scheme within certain other churches like Catholicism and Anglicanism, where black is like your minister, your vicar, your father, your padre, someone on the ground doing the work. When you go up to purple, that's someone who's a bishop. If you were to jump over into the Catholic Church, reds would be cardinals, and then obviously white would be the Pope. Although we loosely use the purple shirt if we are bishops in the Alliance, we tend to jump back into the black, because we like it. I mean, I was always getting told off for wearing black colours, not wearing bright colours, and needing to light a little bit. And I don't like wearing a lot of colour. I've never been a fan. And it goes back to those appearances and other deceits. Certainly white makes me look huge. Can't stand it. But I do like purple. So I wear purple because I like the colour, is the honest truth. But I do, slip back into the black. When I feel the desire and need, and I've literally got black and purple, but there is no set rule other than we don't wear white, and it's not because it makes my bum look big in this.
It is why I don't wear it. And the other reason I might wear my black shirt is, like you just said there, Kaz, at funerals.
Yes.
And also when my other 2 purple shirts are in the wash.
Mm-hmm.
And
That is a good excuse.
Can't be bothered to do my washing, so I just get the black one out and stick that on. But I think it just unifies, because we're not, we have the Council of Bishops, yes, but we're not a hierarchical organisation in that sense.
No.
Everybody wears the same sort of colours, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it is. And whenever people have asked me, I've always said, wear what you like. I mean, Wendy, bless her, she always used to wear pastel shades. So she had a pale blue, a pale green, a pale pink. Barbara Price, one of our bishops, she wears her dark green one. And that is because she likes that color. And apart from obviously the white, when it comes to funerals for me, Kaz, what I will say is my default thought is usually for black. However, like for instance with Reverend Allen's funeral, we were all told colourful and casual. So if that's the instruction from the family for a funeral, then this one goes on. And I will match the request, so to speak. It is really in the alliance. I mean, like you said, we're not a hierarchical organization. The Bishops' Council is there as an administrative body rather than a dictatorial body. I mean, I as the chair of the Bishops' Council, I don't think I've ever exercised, that horrible phrase, well, I'm the chair. I think if I did, they'd soon smack me round the head anyway, and God bless them and God bless that, and I hope they would. We work together, we communicate together, and we basically administrate the alliance. As far as, the day-to-day running, it's down to the individual minister and the individual group. And if anyone's ever been to Littleport, they'll know that I don't run it. I do as I'm told there as much as I do on the Bishops' Council, as the truth be told. Because it's that community thing again, it's that coming together again, and that mutual voice of friendship, love, and will to push forward. If we do anything at Littleport, it's usually strength in numbers, and everyone will come and say, look, we've all been talking and we really think that we'd like to go out this Christmas for a meal. Yeah, all right, then arrange something and we'll sort it out, or we'd like to have this on the raffle, or we'd like to do this, or when it came to having a healing table, it was all just everyone got on and did it. And it's like, Nick, can we, I can't be doing with that. It's just, it's your church, so let's do it. And that's why I loved why the first thing you said was, we are not a hierarchical organization. We're really not. And I do love wearing purple, I have to say. And for someone who used to get in trouble by his, right, this is how bad I am with wearing black. And I was never a goth. I will say I was never a goth. However, I could have been adopted goth. One height of summer, I was walking around Ely. I must have been in my teenagers. I had this long, thick black coat, black trousers, black shirt, and my dad was honking at me in the street saying, "Will you take that coat off?" And I didn't, because I was happy wearing my black. But I am more colourful now that I'm wearing the purple, and it just basically rolls. So within the ISA, we wear what we want, as long as it's not white. They're really hard to get hold of, though. They really, really are. But there we are.
I do have a sewing pattern for the tunnel shirts, so
you
I
do?
may have a play at some point, yes. And I've got some gorgeous rainbow fabric.
Do you know what? That I've actually looked for a rainbow one of these and couldn't find it. So if anyone sees one, please let me know where to get them.
Oh, I may. And yes, absolutely, I will wear a pink T-shirt to come to your funeral, Kaza, if that's what you wish.
Yeah,
and I take it you mean a pink, as in the singer pink, not a pink shirt.
Yes, I'm going to say with the exclamation mark there, I would say it's definitely pink
The singer
t-shirt
pink.
rather than pink t-shirts. You know, and I think that's an interesting point that we don't always talk about enough. Yeah, it is singer pink. I think people should be. I mean, I'm in the middle of writing a funeral again at the moment, and I think the individual is the one that should be represented the most. I think the family should also be equally represented. I think the religion should come right down at the bottom of the list. Yes, it should be the form and the function, but a service like that should represent the individual and those that are in need of that service, not be all about the religion. One of the things that I do slightly different to the standard order of service, for example, the eulogy is right at the beginning rather than right at the end. Because if you're going to do a service about someone, they should be the one that you're talking about first. And so if someone wants you to turn up in a pink t-shirt or pink t-shirts, then that is how it should be done. If people want you to want everyone to turn up in rainbow flannelette stockings, and I'm having an idea for mine now, rainbow flannelette stockings and multicolored tutus, then that's what should be done. Let me just
Mine's
find
still
a
on top
pen
of the
and make a
wardrobe.
note of that. You know, it should be reflective of the individual, and you know, I will always advocate.
Nobody needs to see that.
Advocate. No, nobody needs to see what Kaz has just said.
Nobody needs to see me in my black boxers. No.
Absolutely, same here. And for Neil, he's his grass skirt for his. And you know, it's vital really, and it goes back to representing people, just like with Tim's first question. You know, should there be an awareness of self for mediums? Absolutely, and there should be awareness of individuality for everything we do, and unless we can represent and be aware of that individual, it boils down to the old story of you go to a really fuddy-duddy service. They spend all the time quoting more from, you know, scripture than the book of your own life, and then get the name wrong. And I've been to those funerals, and it's horrendous. You know, that there should be an awareness of self, but awareness of each other, I think, is perhaps even more vital.
I thought I'd gone to the wrong funeral at one point because my uncle's sister, we always called her Auntie Reenie. That's all I ever knew her as. And the celebrant got up and started talking about Irene this, and I thought, who the blooming hell's Irene? Am I at the wrong place? Yeah. And it took me ages to click because nobody in my lifetime had ever called her Irene. It was always Reenie.
Yeah.
And yeah. Anyway, but yes, you're so right. I had this conversation with my parents. We know they're both coming to the end of their lives. They've both got illnesses that mean they are going to go sooner rather than later. And I'd mentioned that I want one of these, take me away, burn me, and bring my ashes back and do what you want with it. It's one of them. And if people want to have a get together and a celebration, that's absolutely fine. But I don't want it at a crematorium. I would rather you went somewhere nice and had a day. And my mum said, I know, I wish I'd known about these things when we booked ours because they had these prepayment plans. And she'd mentioned it a few times. Oh, I wish I'd had that sort of thing when we booked ours, because you know what everybody's like, and it's going to turn into a bun fight, and it's going to turn into a knees up, and that's not us. And I said, look, I'll be honest with you. I don't want to come to a funeral and sit there in a crematorium and think, this isn't what they wanted. They didn't want this at all. I just want, you know, I want it to be about you. So she rang funeral directors and got it swapped, and it's much cheaper than it was in the first place. And it's what they want. So, they want us to go to the local beach and to take their ashes there when they're both gone, and scatter them both over the cliffs. Fine, I'd love to do that. And
absolutely.
Nick, do you want to be launched into space?
I would dearly. I would love to. It would be. It was kind of like a double cremation, really, because my ashes would burn up in the atmosphere. So double. Can't do things by halves. Me. I've opted for a slightly milder version, and that Lisa, who's on, has actually said that she can help me with. Put me in a firework and let me off one night. With the gunpowder, so that if it starts raining up and come back down and join the party. But if it were a cheap option, yes, I would love to be launched into space. And you know what? With the right planning, with the directors, you can adapt the pre-play plan to make it more suitable and recognise that some planes are played long way ahead. Absolutely. And she also said it's not the strangest request I've had. Absolutely. I opted for the firework, but you know what? We sit here and planning what's going to be happening to us. Even though we're spiritualists, we're not going to care.
No, that's the thing.
And that's why it is equally about us as the individual and the people that are left behind, and that is for me the important thing. Everything else is secondary. But yes, Lisa said a fabulous purple firework. We so can do this. I've already had that conversation, and you can see it now. She just proved that. But if it were possible to be launched into space, you know what? The idea that I would end up orbiting this planet and sparking off in the atmosphere somewhere. Yes, I'll share it.
Yeah.
This was my nickname as a child that I gave to myself. I was Supersonic Sonar Radar. I liked science fiction even as a child. Yeah. So yeah, I'd love to be, of course, I'd love to be different. I'd love to do something different. And yeah, if it was a cheap option, yeah, blast me into space. In actual fact, why put me into orbit? Let me ashes go out there and see if somebody can, if in a million years I end up landing on another planet somewhere. Wouldn't that be cool? I'm sure I'd be aware of it from over the other side, even waiting a million years later. It's like, oh, my ashes are due to arrive on this planet that I've been visiting for the last half a millennia. But I think the more colourful, the more interesting we can make it, in all seriousness, the lighter it is for those that we leave behind. For example, the request to wear colour. If we want it to be boring and miserable, it will be boring and miserable, and that is how we'll be remembered. But I think if we can be remembered with upliftment, laughter, and love, and a little bit of humour, then that actually helps with the grieving of the loss of the physical.
Absolutely. And as Jean always says, the first 3 letters of funeral is fun.
Yes. Oh, I do like that. Yes. So, it's funny you said about Irene, your Aunt Irene. Uncle Tom, who's kind of quite well known. I talk about him a fair bit. His name was Walter Spaulding. And when I did his funeral, I said, we are gathered here to remember the life of Walter Spaulding. But of course, that's the last time I'm going to call him by that, because we all knew him as Tom. And it was an acknowledgement of, yes, the official proper name, but then moving on to how everyone knows that person. And we did have a giggle, we did have a laugh. I did take the mick out of him telling everyone that the whole world is evil. You know, we had a laugh because that's what we need to remember people for, that upliftment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Edgar Claydon's got to go. So bye, Anne. See you later.
Bye, man. Be good, be safe, be well.
Yes.
I'm just catching up with his Jerry.
Yeah, I'm just having a look through as well, trying to see what we've missed, because there's been, oh heavens.
You don't want to see me in Calvin's, love. You really, really
no,
don't.
No.
For those just joining us, this is a spiritually uplifting conversation.
Yeah. I like Ashley's point there.
Yes.
I always leave a seat for the spirit person to come and be a part of the service. Of course, I would want to be there and watch when I'm in spirit. Absolutely. And the number of, I don't think I've been to a funeral yet where I haven't been aware of the person's energy in the room.
Yes. Absolutely. So, and you know, that is where it yes. I wonder where I was inspired to talk about the humor of funerals. Hi Jerry. Like for instance, I know many people were aware of Alan at his funeral. But there were little signs and symbols for everybody there. Like, for instance, Mum sitting down and seeing a Native American and a wolf carving in the seat in front of her at the crematorium. You know, and that is, you know, everyone who knows Alan would know that there would have to be something Native American going on. We were banging our drums, for crying out loud. You know, when dad's funeral was quite difficult for me because I conducted it. However, just as we was leaving, my sister fell over and broke her heel, and my other half had to carry her out of the crematorium, and everyone was looking around feeling oh so worried about her. Oh, has she broken down? Bless her. No, she's broke her heel. You know, and it gave some humor to the moment, and I know Dad would have found it absolutely hilarious because I could see him standing there killing himself with laughter, you know, and to be able to bring joy to a difficult moment is always essential. But you've got to remember it's that balance between representing the person and being what people need. So there we are. You just catch up with some comments.
Yes. I just looking to see where we were.
Julie says, as a florist, I've made many different items for funerals. It has made me think what flower arrangements would be made for me. We had the Ipswich Town logo made into flowers at Dad's. That was a feat of work. They did a really, really good job with that. Christine says, back to what Ashley was saying, at Christmas I set a place for my mum, aunt and dad. And I've been to a couple of weddings recently where people have set a place for those in spirit as well, and actually put a picture or a marker on the seat wherever it was. So absolutely right there too. Jerry says, yes, I believe we're always given a sign at the funerals that it's not the end as we know. Absolutely. Neil says, I went to a funeral yesterday. It was so lovely. There was a piece of music tribute to the service. It was from Gabriel Sunshine. As this was playing in the church, it was amazing as there was a beam of sunshine coming through the window and everyone witnessed it, and it was so amazing to see that. Do you know, I love it when that happens. I truly do. Wayne Flint at my funeral. Football shorts. Yeah, absolutely. Football shorts. I do apologize. Football shirts.
That's I could have got myself with the boxes.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. So it's all right. My reading's a bit off. Yeah, a subtle sign at funeral is what Jerry was saying. And Liz says, I had broccoli and lavender arrangement put on my partner's casket and it looked fantastic. It's something different. Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
amazing.
And we've got some love for Wayne's idea, and it really, really should be a representation of the individual and not be fuddy-duddy and miserable. But we are.
Yes. Brilliant. There's some wonderful ideas. And I do think it is important to. We had a question about this a few weeks ago about how do you approach the subject of what you want and what your wishes are for that time when you know you're going to be passing away. And I think conversations are important to just talk about it. And it's just normalizing that conversation because it's one of life's inevitabilities.
Yes.
So I think as long as you handle it sensitively and carefully, then it's fine. Just talk about it and tell people what you want and what your wishes are.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Ashley, I find the funeral planning conversation just one part of ministry that we offer. I also help the family plan the days leading up to their funeral and how to help them find creative ways to address and process the grief. The sky's the limit. Anything is possible. Bang on. Absolutely.
Amen, sister.
Because it isn't just about the day. It's about the run up to, preparing for, and the aftermath. Because
yes.
Everybody I've spoken to has always said that between the passing and the funeral is a limbo. You can't do anything. You can't process anything. You can't comprehend anything. Once the funeral's over with, then you can start to process your feelings and emotions. And so it's the aftermath of the funeral as well, when it's important to just keep checking in and saying to people, are you okay? How are you doing?
Yeah.
Is there anything you need?
Definitely.
Because so Ashley, it's crucial, and that's what the ministry is about. It's about supporting people.
They say a puppy isn't just for Christmas, it's for life. Well, a minister isn't just for the services, it's for everything before, during, and after. And I can absolutely attest that not only is that space between passing and funeral a limbo, it's also, it feels sometimes like a race to get to the finishing post, to get things done, to get stuff done. But it can also, in the negative sense, be a way of avoiding it. I've got to get this done. I've got to get that done. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I've got to focus on this. I need to keep my mind sharp and deal with this first. And when the end of that service hits, you feel like you're standing on a cliff and all you can see is this vast open space. And if you've got people around you who care about you, if you've got people around you who understand, if you've got people around you who are able to be supportive, you will be able to turn around and realize that you haven't got this huge space in front of you on this cliff. Turn around and see all the people that are around you, willing you along the route, along the path, back into life. And the end of a funeral is the really, really seriously dangerous bit where you suddenly take a breath and realize you've been rushing along 10 to the dozen to get it done and out the way. And that is when it's vital to actually be there and say, right, look, I know I'm done here today, but I'm not done with you. If you need me, you know where I am. And please don't feel afraid to just shout, because that big wide open space moment. You're absolutely right, Tony. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And Jerry Hobbs says, I've always spoken quite openly about what I would like, songs, etc. My children are all well aware what I would like, but they also know I would like to choose. I would like to choose bits that they feel remind me of them and how they see me. Absolutely.
Yes.
That's just goes back to what you were saying at the beginning, that it's about a funeral is about the individual who's transitioned, but it's also about the family and their time to say their goodbyes.
Yes.
Yeah. And Ashley, funerals are not just click and collect. Get the funeral out the way and then,
get the funeral out the way and then the work begins.
And grief is really hard work. Grief is really, really hard work. Wow, lots of comments going up.
Yes.
Yeah. Jerry says they agree that after the funeral is when it starts to hit home. Yeah.
So you're going to be seeing an awful lot of me in the next few weeks, young lady. Kaza, right. How do you manage a funeral for a loved one and not let your emotions get in the way? And she is referenced, obviously, that I did Dad's funeral and Reverend Allen's. And if you feel yourself breaking down with emotions, how do you manage to compose? I made the mistake of doing exactly what we've just said don't do, using that in-between time as a limbo. It was my way of coping because I knew I had to be right for everyone. But you know what? The one thing I've learned over the last couple of years is don't worry about it if you do. There was one really, really dodgy moment in Dad's funeral, for example, where somebody was doing a reading. And again, it reflects that do things that represent that individual for everybody, not just yourself. Jonathan, my old boss, was also in the police force with Dad. And he had a letter written by the chief constable of Cambridgeshire about Dad that he read out as his reading, but then said a few words at the end himself. And he ended with the code for the police sign off for when you sign off. And he said, SDO Brown, I think it's something like 10-6 or something. I really don't know what the code is. I can't remember. But he's signing off 10-6 and he saluted. And at that moment, I almost went into absolute meltdown because it really, really got me in the throat. And I just stopped and I took a breath and I thought to myself, 10 more minutes, you can do what you want. And I think when it is a risk, because sometimes you do that for the wrong reason. And I think, for me, I kept going because it was for the benefit of everybody else. But then looking back, it was something that I wanted to do. So I was doing it for me, and that's what kept me going. But there is a risk of being too cold. There is a risk of being too distant. And so finding that temperance, that balance that we spoke of right at the beginning is absolutely essential. And you just get through it. I think I can't tell people how to cope with that situation because the truth is I don't know how I did. I don't know how I do. And sometimes if you can easily, perhaps that's an awareness of self that I should be looking at, but certainly as soon as it hit and I went to pieces. But again, as much as people believe it or not, I am actually quite a private person when it comes to my emotions. Not so much when I get a hissy fit or a paddy, but everything else is quite private. And so I suppose that's it. That's one of the ways that I dealt with it. What about yourself, Tone?
I think I agree with you that you find that moment and you take a deep breath and think, I can get through this. I can get through this. And after the time, you can like you say, you can have that wobble if you want. But I do agree that I don't think it hurts to show some emotion.
Yeah.
And I did find doing the prayer at Alan's funeral difficult because it was Alan and his family were there, and you trying not to go. And I did have a wobble as I was walking up, but deep breath, compose myself, and we can get through this. But yeah, it when it hits you hard. It really does. And
I think it's essential to see. Yeah, I think it's essential to see, isn't it? You actually give us stuff.
Yeah. That even though we are spiritualist and we know that Alan was there and having a great time watching us all at his funeral and, saluting and everything else, but it's still the loss of that physical contact, that knowing he won't pop up on screen on a Thursday night and do the reading anymore and all of that. It's so difficult, but you've just got to think he ain't suffering no more. He's there and he's free and he can do what he wants, and it's wonderful. But I think it's got to be a time when you do your best for that person and for the family and to fulfill the need at that time. Yeah. Jerry agrees. It doesn't make it any easier just because we're aware of the spirit. It doesn't. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the feedback I've had from spirit is that they grieve as well for the same reason, because
they miss the physical too.
They can't run up to you and give you a big hug and say, "Hey, you're all right. You're going to be fine." So there's grief both sides. I just wanted to pick up. Lisa made a comment about last wishes.
Yes. I'd got my finger hovering ready. Yeah.
For me, that's a difficult one because there is a fine balance between mum and her wishes and the family and their wishes. And it's about whose wishes take precedent at that time. And that's difficult. That is a difficult conversation. And if I was a minister sat in a room having those conversations, I would find that very, very difficult. About, do you respect mum's wishes or dad's wishes, or is there a catch-all in the middle somewhere where we can come to some mutual understanding? It's a difficult one, Lisa, and I don't envy you.
No, I don't. For me, I have, because oddly enough, a couple of weeks back, I was helping my aunt rewrite her will. And there's a section in this paperwork, when you're doing a will, you can actually put stuff in it. So we were looking at all the various different things you could put in it. And there's a bit about what would you like done to you afterwards? Where would you like to go? What would you like happen to you? How would you like your service conducted? And I said to you, when you're writing this, think about that and put that in. Well, why? What does it matter? The reason it matters is situations like this, because if you write a will and you put in an executor and you do what you need to do within that, it kind of puts the onus on your wishes being in an official document. And it would be very, very hard for someone to go against that paperwork. So, having had that conversation with my aunt about what she was doing, I've actually put it in mine so that there's no argument.
Yeah.
You can sit there and discuss what you'd like to your heart's content, but if you put these sorts of things, I would highly recommend that these kind of final wishes, what is done with my remains after my passing, I think it's essential that it is in that document. Because personally, for me, as Daniel, by the way, hello and welcome, Daniel. I would respect the wishes of the person, because it is their body at the end of the day, even though they're not using it anymore. I would be always inclined to go with that, but it is that last thing that you've got. But if they're going to be scattered anyway, I would say that it's the choice of the person who they belong to. But unless you put situations and protections in place, like I suggested when we was talking about what goes in a will, I would put that in there. I really, really would.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done based off that conversation we were having.
Yeah. My instinct would be it's my choice. It's my remains, and that's if you don't agree with the concept of the soul goes on and everything, then that's my earthly remains, and I want to choose where I want to spend the rest of eternity. The fact that for me it's a vessel, and once I've done with it, I'm done with it. So personally, I haven't got an issue. Michael can do what he wants with it, or Ben or whoever can do what they want with it. But if somebody has a desire and has a wish of where they want to be, then 99.999% of the time they should, unless there's a reason why you can't go there.
Yes.
I know some people have got rules about where you can and can't be scattered.
Of course. Yes.
But if it's a legal place and you have permission to scatter, it should be that's where you should be. For
absolutely. Now, it's been a very possibly depressing for some people conversation. I personally think essential and important, but there is, of course, a lighter side to all of this. So my question to you, Tony, is in involvement in any funeral, either as someone sitting there or conducting, what's been the most uplifting / funny situation that the person in the spirit world and the family may have found funny? Because they do happen. What's been your light side moment of a funeral?
I have to say it was father-in-law's funeral. Entered to Paradise by the Dashboard Light off Bat Out of Hell. The full version with the noises at the end. You know, he's going to first base, he's going to second base. Oh my God, I think he's going to make it. And then she shouts, "Stop right there." All of that. And that was quite amusing because you could see people sort of humming along, and then the words must have filtered through and they sort of had this look of, oh, okay. And then came the curtains were closing and it was a Bat Out of Hell, the Bat Out of Hell full track. Amazing, wonderful. And the funeral director walked down the aisle and stood at the front as the music was just revving up. And I mean, literally, you know, the motorbike sounds and everything. And everybody was bopping, you know.
Yeah.
It was absolutely brilliant, wonderful. And I could just see Mick standing there, killing himself laughing, that everybody's head banging along to this music at a time when you feel you need to be somber and the curtains are drawing round, and you know you're wanting to acknowledge the seriousness of the moment, but this epic tune's banging out through the speakers. It was wonderful, absolutely wonderful, and it just made me smile because it was like chef's kiss. You know, that was perfect. That was Mick. That was just how it was. Fabulous. How about yours?
I've got to say, I think it's always going to be, bless him, Andy. My mate Andy, who bless him, he passed when he was in his early 30s with bowel cancer, and he knew it was coming, and he'd asked me to perform his funeral for him. And it was really, really strange for me because he was actually an atheist up until, you know, his passing, at least just before. I will never forget that the feeling of horror when I made a mistake, because I said, you know, I find it strange that you want me to do your funeral. He said, yeah, well, I don't want your God stuff in it. I was like, okay, fair enough. You know, it's your service. You know, I will respect that. I did mention that conversation, and I was a little bit more blunt with the language that he used about it. And people found that uplifting because that was definitely him. But when you're doing, and it goes back to what people were saying about the difficult bits, when you're in a crematorium, there is this big red button that is glaring at you the whole time, that is for the curtains, and it is one of the hardest things to do. And when you get into that point, it's an autopilot. And because I'm a religious person and I've done these services in a religious way, I went into autopilot, and I turned like I normally did, and I pushed the button, and as the curtains closed, I bowed my head and said, may God bless you and keep you safe on your journey. And I suddenly felt the colour drain from my face. And I suddenly stood there and thought, oh my God, I've just done exactly what he asked me not to. And without a beat, without even thinking, I just turned to his mum, his dad, and his wife. And I looked them square in the eyes and said, well, I guess I'll be getting in trouble for that later. Every single person in that congregation laughed their head off. I was very, very lucky to know Andy the way I did, because I knew he would find that funny, and they all did. So this really, really difficult moment, that moment that is so hard for everyone, became this moment of laughter and joy and upliftment and remembrance of Andy, because Nick had goofed and said he was going to get in trouble about it, and everybody knew that was the case. Nick would be getting in trouble for it, and Andy would be kicking his backside for it, and everyone standing there laughing in that moment was actually not only really, really uplifting and a relief, but it was Andy through and through. And it really just underpinned how Andy would want things done. In his cardboard painted with Spitfire box, the curtains were then wrapping round. He would have been stood behind me if I was LinkedIn at the time. I was, you know, I do protect myself from that at that last bit. He would have stood there creasing up with laughter. And yes, he has. And yes, I did. I'm not allowed, because I'm afraid of getting savaged off the air. But I'm not allowed to use the words that he laughingly described me as. But there's something about a prize being in there. But yeah, it reflected him. And you know what? Every time I see people that were at that funeral, because they know I'm a medium, the first thing they say to me is, have you got in trouble yet?
Yeah.
Have you got in trouble yet? And that was, like I said, as the person leading it, it was a relief, I will be honest. But as someone representing Andy, that was him.
Yeah.
That was him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, that's got to be the most uplifting moment of a service, because it covered all the bases and everyone left in a positive. They were still chuckling as they walked out. I've never seen it before or since. People chuckling as they walk out the crematorium. And you know, I know that he would want it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of joy at your story there, Nick. People sending laughing emojis and little kitty cat emojis with tears. Yeah,
I
brilliant.
do like the little laughing puddy tat. I do
I
like
the laughing puddy tat. Yeah.
Indeed.
For some reason, my Facebook feed's been chugging up with Tom and Jerry cartoons for the last few days. I've no idea where they're coming from, but
Oh wow!
I don't know what. Just we're talking about pussycats and that.
Yeah,
I thought
popped in your head.
random.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know, every time you Google something, every time you search something, you know it's going to come up. But it's those random moments where really, really strange things take over. But I swear sometimes it can hear what we're saying, because we've sat there talking about a new Hoover, and then there's Hoovers popping up in the feed, and it's like, have you searched for them? No. Okay.
No.
So maybe Mr. Facebook is, or it could be our spirit friends telling us to get on with it. I don't quite understand what spirit would be telling you bringing Tom and Jerry up.
No.
Unless you need to eat more calcium and have cheese.
Possibly. But yeah, that wouldn't be fun for anybody else around me, though, if I started eating cheese and dairy.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Ditto.
Yeah, not good.
There we
not
go.
Good.
Well, can you believe it, Tony? It's 5:20.
I can't believe that at all. It's ridiculous. Oh, Jerry says, I'm sorry, I've told Toms to stop sending them. I love it. Oh,
Bless.
dear. But it is 5:20. Where does time go when we start?
Out there.
Yeah. Oh, telling me to have a game of cat and mouse with Michael. There we are. But no, it's been wonderful again. Can't wait for next Friday.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to share my time with you, Tony. It is something that I look forward to, especially if I make a goof and break a wire like I did for church last night. So, thank you all for joining us as always. It is always a pleasure to share our afternoon and see where the conversation goes. We never know.
We had no idea. We came on and thought, oops, what we're going to talk about, and it just evolves. It's brilliant.
Yes.
Love it.
Really, really does. So thank you all for joining us. Tony, what are you up to over the weekend? Can we find you anywhere online next week before we meet again?
I will be on Signs of the Afterlife on Saturday evening, and I will be in Worcester on Sunday afternoon at a friend's book launch.
Yes, I look forward to having a nosy through that book as well. So don't forget to send me the name and the title.
I will.
Indeed, yes. As Jerry has quite rightly pointed out, we do have a funeral on Thursday, so there may well be some follow-up stories. Hopefully nothing where the minister does anything wrong. If anybody's interested and in the area, I shall be at Huntington Spiritualist Church on Sunday, and then of course in Burley Marsh. See you there, Kai, on Tuesday. And
wonderful.
After you've seen Tony, if you want to see something a little bit different, I'm hosting a paranormal event streaming live from Canada. On SPTV on Saturday, and then I'll be with my lovely Karen on Monday, and then of course 7 days later we will be back together again, all of us, not just me and this one here, but all of you back together again.
Yes.
And I very much look forward to that.
Yes.
And yes, I will.
Yes. Fabulous.
Excellent.
Well, thank you, everybody. It's been great, and we will see you all next week.
So, as for now, as always, it's good night from him.
And it's good night from him. Good night.
God bless.